One down, 3 more to go here for day number 2 of week number 2 in HGC China. We just witnessed the downfall of Sunny Lion in a pretty one-sided fashion, so hopefully this history is not going to repeat itself in the next upcoming series, and especially not in this one that is now going to come here between SOA and TheOne. You may have seen TheOne at an international stage a few weeks ago at the Eastern Clash, where they were China's 2nd seed. Unfortunately, just like the rest of China, they weren't able to overcome the Korean overlords that were Ballistics, KSV Black, Blossom, and who did I miss? Tempest. So that was not they were not able to do that, but they could very well overcome Team SOA, who is a team that on paper looks like an equal rival.
And rival is the right word. The last two teams these times faced each other was the playoffs match to decide who went to the Eastern Clash.
Yes.
It went to the full 5 games.
Yes.
And TheOne came out on top in a 3-2.
In a series that couldn't have been closer.
Rivalry here.
Yeah.
The first opportunity that SOA have had to go to an international stage, and they are smitten and slapped down a bit by TheOne. They're going to be looking for revenge.
That is certainly true. And these gentlemen, on the other hand, they're trying to basically keep their record against SOA that was going so well in their favor during the playoffs. As Tetra mentioned, we have players like Meng, who was going on a tear yesterday on that Genji, slicing and dicing his way through. We saw Hugo once again on heroes like Leoric that are less flashy than his Odin, but still very threatening to face if you're on the opposing side, like these guys are right now. In the back, you can see Klong having a good time with Uncle G and Fei, and those guys always look so happy, and that's why we love casting SOA.
They look happier than yesterday, and honestly, like you say, when they seem happy, they win games. So they've won my vote just with smiles, and that is a fantastic start for SOA. Because once again, SOA had the best start to the season out of any of the teams in the first week or so. Yep. They slowed down a bit, moving from 1st place down to 3rd, but they would love to pick up some more points here to get themselves closer to that top 2. We see Fei, Uncle G, the 2 long-term members, TY, Klong, and Sorry, who has replaced Molly, who went to FBT.
Yeah, Molly, of course, the former star player, the star assassin, if you will. But Sorry, starting to fill his shoes quite nicely, and especially TY has impressed me so much over the last few days. Really stepping his game up, stepping his hero pool diversion up as well. So, diversity, I should say. And Meng now here, of course, the key player when it comes to both teams. And this is cool to see because for the most part of last phase in 2017, he was always in the shadow of Hugo, who took every MVP title, who was the most discussed player in the league oftentimes. But now Meng has stepped it up even more, probably even at the Eastern Clash, I would say, one of the more impactful players from China. So cool to see that he's become such a powerhouse with only 16 years of age.
Again, agreed. The youngest player in the league, I think we worked out.
Yep.
Which is pretty impressive for starters. We have had good experiences with young players before, both in Heroes, if we use Breeze as a pretty good example, or even in other games where Leonok, I believe, still holds the record for, I believe, the youngest pro gamer in a Blizzard game, but I'm not entirely sure that.
I think there may be a Terran player in StarCraft 2 called Rainer, who's from Italy and only 13 years old or so. I think I heard stories about him, which is insane. Like, he's literally a prodigy.
I mean, we need to talk about, like, I would count that as winning an international event.
Oh, okay.
That is what I would count as
right.
a world champion, which, of course, Leonok did. He won an MLG. That used to be a thing that existed. They still do, actually. They're still doing quite a lot of work. As we do see here, TheOne slightly coming out on top in terms of the majority of stats against SOA, but it's still relatively close in a lot of them.
Yeah. I'm looking up Rainer, by the way, just to make sure that I'm not telling you lies, but there is indeed a player called Rainer from Italy, and he started playing the game at the age of 11, where he reached Master, and then he won his first tournament, an Italian LAN tournament, at 2 years later with the age of 13.
StarCraft.
Yeah. StarCraft
I played StarCraft all the way up until I was 18, and I never got above gold. It's
pretty amazing.
Damn talent!
Yeah, and he's now part of Team My Insanity and played at tournaments such as DreamHack Bucharest. It's just insane. All right.
That's really cool. I love it.
13 years.
So, we see... Sorry, Home Smart thing decided that I heard its name. As we see Tomb of the Spider Queen coming out as the first map here, chosen by TheOne.
Just noticed that Rainer, the Italian prodigy, wasn't even 12, by the way, and already master. Oh.
More than a little stressful. Nothing helps remind you of your own mortality and waning years, like seeing young players. But for now, let us experience one such as Meng. But we're starting off with a Maiev ban from Soa.
Yeah, Maiev, of course, we talked about this yesterday as well. Sometimes, between certain teams, there seems to be this gentleman's agreement of, you know what, we're neither going to pick Maiev, we're not going to ban her either, so we can all live happily ever after. But then again, there's teams where they're like, okay, you know what, we don't care about the rules and the gentleman's treaties. We're going to pick Maiev if, you know, you don't ban it. So TheOne and Soa definitely on that Maiev train up to this point. And Maiev is still a hero that can single-handedly win games, right? We saw that yesterday where she was pulling people back into the Stuk of Silence over and over and over again. It was just not pretty to watch.
I think I've come up with a slight issue. I don't know if it's the case in game or not, because I haven't played Hero League in a little bit. But Blizzard removed the fact that you could see your opponent's names in any kind of draft.
And Team League. Mm-hmm.
And which is why we currently see them just numbered.
Yeah.
And yet, we can still see what the crown is on. So assuming you were in a lobby beforehand, in a pro game especially, does that not kind of defeat the purpose?
Well,
but then again, swapping is a possibility in pro games, so it's not so bad.
Yeah, and you only know one of the players then, I guess, the team captain and such, and you can swap in custom games, as Tetris said. So,
but I'm curious if that is a thing in Hero League as well, where you can see who has the crown and just, I don't know, guess by MMR. Like, if Snitch might be in your game, he's probably got the crown because he has all the points ever.
Oh, when certain people are online in my friends list, I definitely check. It's like who's on the enemy team and who's in the game right now.
Oh, abuser, as we see. I was about to say this. There was no way that Soa weren't going to pick the Hanzo here, purely because they need Hanzo or Greymane, because these are the two heroes that Sori can really turn it up on. Yeah. He is slowly expanding his hero pool, but if you deny both of them to him, it is very visibly performing a little bit worse.
Yeah, and already we can see a very Chinese playstyle at the moment, or a very in-meta playstyle around the globe, actually, with a Garrosh Malf providing strong synergy. Garrosh locks someone down, tosses him over the shoulder right into the warm entangling roots of a Malfurion, and it's really hard to just escape a combo like that if you're locked down. It's basically the newer version of Stitches into Malfurion, although I still think Stitches is vastly underrated, in China at least. Garrosh just does it a little bit more reliably, and he's also a little bit more impactful in the early mid game.
Yeah, I would. I'd agree. The fact that his heroic is team affecting as opposed to Stitches, which is either one person affecting or potentially team affecting, depending on positioning. Here is the return of someone who is very rare in the Chinese scene. The Arthas combined with the Jaina this time as well. So a very very cool team coming in.
Yeah, Frost and Ice. A symphony of Frost and Ice, if you will.
Chucking a Kel'Thuzad in there and we are golden.
Ooh. I wouldn't even hate that. I would love to see KT come back into the meta at some point. He's one of those heroes that when you face them in Hero League, you're always like, My first initial reaction was like, haha, yeah, that's great for us, but then you get hit by that one late game combo and that blows you up to pieces, and that loses you the game. And basically whenever I watch Grubby stream, he's a big fan of Kel'Thuzad. He plays him a lot. You basically see those phenomena happen over and over again, where sometimes the early mid game goes terribly wrong, and then the late game, you drop that one chain, boom, wins you the game.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't like to see it from Soa now, because that would mean they're triple assassin and double mage, which would be, you know, just uber-rackable, which Soa would have banned out if they intended anything of the sort. I would like to see it at some point, maybe in a quick match, just full ice team. We don't have enough heroes for that yet, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
As we now wait for the next hero for TheOne. They have Garrosh, they have Malfurion. This is where we would sometimes see Tracer with Greymane banned out. This is I really do like this from Soa. We haven't really talked about it. For starters, Arthur's just a cool tank in general. But
quite literally,
is preemptive against TheOne. It just shuts down the potential strategy they've run so many times before they even have a chance to do it.
That is a great point. What TheOne likes to do on a regular basis is, of course, Arthas, Illidan, Abathur, something along those lines. Just basically take away counters from the Illidan and then make him shine like a diamond. So, yeah, you bring up a really good point. I think the Arthas is both a preemptive measure against the one specifically, like a target counter. And of course, it empowers Jaina's power level quite a bit as well, because if targets are slowed, she in return will have an easier time landing her abilities. So oftentimes, Arthas and Jaina work very well together. Now we see the Rhaegar. They're going over the Stukov because they didn't prioritize it earlier, and now it's banned against them.
Which is fair enough. It still gives them cleanse against, well, kind of just Garrosh and Malfurion, but that's still not so bad. He's also decent in healing. However, he is going to suffer because Malthael is in the game, and if Malthael goes to that touch of death, there is going to be a problem. They can make up for this by picking a solid solo laner against Malthael, someone they can win with, so that they have a little bit more freedom on the map, so that Malthael isn't going to be able to leave the lane as early by just winning it.
Yeah, and this is quite the tricky endeavor, finding a solo laner that bests Malthael right now. So
honestly, I think Rag. Rag or Cigar. Cigar leaves them very low on melee heroes. Rag could fit, but it's risky against Garrosh.
And it's also very susceptible. A Zagara or any range hero basically would have also been a little more susceptible to Genji ganks, which could very likely happen. So they go for the Varian once again. Varian, we talked about this earlier, not too shabby of a soul laner at this point. Actually, I would say he's okay if you go for overpower at level 1 and then patiently wait until Malthael attacks you over and over again. Like, timing is key. When you solo lane Varian these days, timing is of the essence, because you will have to use your overpower, and secondly, you're going to have to be dependent on landing your Lion's Fang onto the enemy hero in lane all the time. If you don't, your healing is not going to be significant enough, and your damage output is not going to be too wild either.
This is why I would not mind seeing a full Q build coming in from Varian. Full Q build into Taunt, add in the Warbringer for the level 4 and Juggernaut later to deal with the Garrosh. Could have a pretty reasonable time, lots of slows, lots of damage, decent healing in lane. And a potential little bit of extra burst against this one that's just come up. The Gul'dan is picked, and that's sensible, because what's going to be the biggest issue? Sticky Arthas, Sticky Variant, those tanks are going to be so hard to peel against.
Yes.
How do you peel against them? You horrify them, make them peel themselves.
I would actually agree with you. I think what the One have drafted here doesn't look like a Chinese draft to me. It looks more like a Korean style draft, maybe even the Western regions, with elements like the Gul'dan here, for example. I love what they're trying to do. And the One, of course, is a team that was able to experience firsthand what it felt like to play against those Korean teams at the Eastern Clash. So they're trying to basically evolve their game, shifting away from this all-in aggression that they were known for every single time, not picking the Illidan all the time, not going for the Sonya, Leorg, Hugo all the time. Hugo in particular has been really active when it comes to shifting away from those three heroes that he was only able to play. The Malthael, now he played it at the Eastern Clash to mixed success. However, here, I think against an Arthas, against the Varian, the slow-ticking damage, the poison damage, if you will, coming in from Gul'dan as well, is going to be so efficient against the protection at level 10 from Varian.
Very sensible indeed. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, we are loaded into the Tomb of the Spider Queen. And on the left, it is the One, with Hugo on Malthael, Lucky on Gul'dan, Meng on Genji, ZJZ on the Malfurion, and Hehe is playing Garrosh. Meng on Genji is just a happy sentence for me to say.
Oh, it's going to be brutal. 4 Team Soa to fight and stand against that. With Faye, they're trying on the Arthas, Uncle G on Rhaegar, TY plays the Jaina, Klong, my man, on Varian, and last but not least, we have Hanzo, played by Sori. One of the 2 heroes I think he has been on exclusively. Greymane and Hanzo, those 2 are Sori's get-to. Now, we see the Lion's Maw coming in here immediately, once again shifting towards the more aggressive style that we're leaning towards. That also gives him a little bit of a stronger laning presence against someone like Malthael. But already, look at that. Soa is posturing up here in the bottom lane with the Jaina, with the Rhaegar. I think this could be an early gank attempt against Malthael, who hasn't really the greatest of escape tools.
Genji has potentially rumbled this though, but they're still going to try. Genji comes in to drop some harassment, and that's enough to dissuade TY from going any further. TY trying to use that lingering chill to the best of the ability to lock down that kill in time, but in this case, it does not happen.
Hanzo has been left alone in the middle up to this point, but already with his strong wave clear, he's able to shut down this wave quite significantly before it reaches the towers. Now Arthas and Jaina also rotating away from the bottom lane, but Klong already trying to stay part of the rotation, only to get back to the bottom lane before any minion XP is lost.
It's also looking for, obviously, Q stacks wherever he can. Already hitting several, but he's getting pressured. Deflect is dropped. You can still see that ticking damage coming in from Hugo. But Hugo is traded on as well with the help of TY.
Yeah, so already you can see so much preemptive predictions coming in here for both teams. They're really trying to catch each other off guard. And Malthael, because he was dropped in lane so hard, he's already going for that bruiser camp super early on, being supported by Malfurion there as well. That shouldn't really be a big deal. Klong, of course, has a much easier time now against Meng. He charges in immediately, drops the Lion's Maw. I'm not even sure if that hit. I don't think it did.
It did not. It was dodged nicely by the Cyber Agility.
All right, and both teams are already shaping up for what could be, that one went in, for what could be a longer game. Look at ZJZ actually patiently waiting for Soa. He was actually expecting him to go for a similar move, and now that they know that the red camp is pushing towards, they're going to wait a little bit longer so that they can defend the enemy team's red camp under their own towers and then have their own mercenary camp push.
Very sensible. However, Soa making the most out of that by grabbing bot mercenary camp, and they will get it just in time. Uncle G even able to escape hits. So even though that's still a small issue where their mid camp will be cleared up first due to the setup of the one, it does also mean they're still going to gain some value in bot lane as well. So Ashtosh Malthael, you can see him basically playing a game of dodgeball in lane now, while Gul'dan has been tasked with cleaning up the enemy bruiser camp. Arthas, though, he was left unattended here for a while. You can see that mage mercenary has been dropped super low by Faye.
Yeah, definitely a good point. The Wizard Mercenary, always the most important one, because it provides this magic protection aura, reducing the damage done by all abilities for, I think it was 10%. So here we see Faye, and that's a little bit of a tricky situation now for Garrosh, right? There aren't really that many targets you really want to throw into the backline. And Arthas, you don't want to do that unless you make sure that he's isolated and can't get the kill. Varian is normally having an easier time surviving as well. Here comes a good lockdown, the taunt and the roots and the blizzard, and down goes Hugo.
Meng picks up all the gems though, so only XP was lost. Lane is being held, so they're able to keep everything together there. So pretty decent. Malthael will be back as soon as possible. Meng's rotational ability has also obviously been shut down due to this. And it's given a little bit of control from Soa over this bottom lane. Sorry, takes a long leap to avoid any kind of damage from Garrosh and Lucky.
Yeah, very important to actually dodge those corruption waves as well, because we have the Echo Corruption locked in for Gul'dan. Of course, every count matters, or every stack matters, sorry. If you aren't able to really stack up nicely in the early game because of the enemy team avoiding combats, avoiding skirmishes, you're actually going to find yourself in a little bit of a tricky situation as Gul'dan. It could oftentimes take until level 13 or 16 before you even finish the Echoed Corruption. So similar to a Crash Lightning Thrall, when you play against stacking heroes in particular, like the Gul'dan, like a Thrall, for example, it's oftentimes better to avoid direct confrontation for as long as possible, to not give them any free stacks.
And this has seemed to have been the case so far. Fade, however, does give over a stack there. You can see Hihi looking for an engage, decides to throw Arthas away. Not going to throw him onto Lucky, tried to give Lucky enough time to channel in. Did not work. Hanzo still going for a mostly auto-attack build. This is basically the standard auto-attack build we have seen for a while now. And we do see the Varian going with pretty much the build I hoped he would. I'm happy with this. Going for the full Q build so he can actually sustain and poke as much as he needs to, which is going to make his laning phase much easier.
Alright, Klong intercepting and interrupting with a Lion's Fang once more, buying enough time for Sori to actually get there, but the range, he wasn't brave enough. He was, of course, expecting Hihi on the on the Garrosh to linger in the shadows somewhere. By the way, look at the ones Hugo. He's keeping his level 7 talent hidden up to this point. I think he's patiently waiting until maybe the Ancestor Healing gets locked in by Rhaegar, and then to only drop it in the nick of time. Nope, he goes for it right at the get-go.
It's pretty safe to take, no matter what. Rhaegar's healing's all AoE. He's gone for a healing totem. You're going to get value no matter what. It's just a question of how much value you want, but also, what are the odds of Rhaegar taking a Bloodlust with a Jada on the team? I would love to see it as Hugo gets chugged, but Klong being forced back up, nearly dying to that purple wave from the Webweaver. Needs to be a little bit more careful. Yeah. We're looking at healing up with the Q to the Quester. Yeah.
The Touch of Death was of course used here. Hihi trying to go for a cheeky flank, waiting for the minions and the weapons to arrive to intercept the shots of the forts. And that's what Hihi likes to do a lot, actually. And if he plays heroes like Arthas, if he likes to play heroes like Garrosh, always try to come from an unexpected angle to maybe catch someone off guard. This time, of course, Soa was prepared. They were on the back foot already because of the web weavers pushing. So good value for the one, but still, Soa do a decent job at keeping the XP count as even as possible.
That's possibly one of the best scenarios that could have possibly been for Soa, in fact. Varian won bot lane, or at least was holding bot lane so well when Malthael wants that much freedom, considering Varian and Arthas, for example, had ganked Malthael several times. They decided that the best commitment they could do would be to commit to bot lane to give Malthael more freedom so he could actually rotate around the map. So Varian won by forcing that reaction that just completely neutralized the web weavers in mid, because Hanzo and Arthas, who was probably going to die here, were just able to clean up. So as such, the towers took so little damage that they hadn't already. And good save by Rhaegar just in time to save Faye.
Beautiful cleanse there. Level 10 would have been here as well, just in case. So the Ancestral Healing could have been used. They don't use it this time, though, which is nice.
Shield wall coming in here. I guess that's for Gul'dan, but I would still prefer the Warbringer to combine with Juggernaut against Garrosh here. But again, that's a single hero, only a single tank on the team. I can see the reason why they've gone for Shield wall.
But I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think the Warbringer could have probably had more value because you're facing double poison anyway, so the Shield Wall won't absorb that much damage against such a sustaining team like that features Malthael and Gul'dan, right? And sure, while you can maybe prevent a Genji reset from happening every now and then, I still would have leaned towards the Warbringer as a more efficient chasing tool. But then, as you said, they already have Arthas, who's so strong at locking people down. I don't think that aspect of Varian's kit was even needed. But as it is, Team Soa, they're desperately trying to get their first turn in. 17 left in the bank for the one, so they need to be on their toes and keep those turn-in areas safe and clean.
Both teams have enough for a turn in. The one looking to try and sneak theirs in. They will be able to get it because, oh no, they're being very patient. They have 5. They need to turn in 4, and they're all on one hero. So he just needs to rotate here. But for now, his job is currently saving Lucky, and is able to do so when into the fray. His Dragon Arrow was used here. Now Faye getting taunted, taking up easy Ancestral, and too late on the touch of death. Faye is still super tanky, turns around and takes out Malthael. But here comes Genji with the Dragon Blade, but not going to be able to move back. Varian using the shield wall to distract Genji, and Genji gets turned around because he couldn't get the reset.
Yeah, that was so well played by Soa, but once again, oh, that was a good toss by Hehe, though. He is having a giggle there behind enemy lines. Wonderfully done. But once again, we have to commend Soa for playing this very well. Varian actually surviving long enough for his team to hold the front line. Hanzo, everyone was dropping so low because of that spread poison damage by Gul'dan, by Malthael in his dying breath. But still, it was enough healing done by Rhaegar. The Ancestor was picture perfect there as well. And they win the team fight, they get the turn, and this is now Soa's moment to capitalize on those victories.
And they're going to try and push in with this. Arthur, is alive and he's on his way as the lanes begin to be pushed. And this is good news for Soa. Like you said, this is the comeback XP. They're already even on levels. Now is their chance to get ahead. Clone moves in, forces Hugo back. Yeah, if Arthas hadn't died there at that last little bit, that could have been absolutely disastrous.
I think so too.
For the one there.
But even as it is, look how they're speeding things up. Look how they're trying to get as much value done as possible while their opponents are still focused on defending bottom and middle. And I think this could actually turn into a relatively big problem now for the one. While they're doing a great job defending middle and bottom, the top lane is going to get heavily damaged, which could pave the way for later boss plays. Getting the keep right away, maybe even going for the core. So this was a good push, a strong win once again for Team Soa. And we have to highlight the duel, the face-off between Malthael and Rhaegar. This time Uncle G came out on top here because the Touch of Death was used and triggered too late to prevent the full value from the healing. And I think if that one had been used a little earlier, the team fight could have gone completely differently.
Couldn't agree more. That absolutely was such a huge deal that he was able to block that. Sorry, not able to block that, and as such, Rhaegar able to keep Arthas alive. I mean, yeah, Arthas died anyway, but those slows allowed them to turn around onto Genji and onto Malthael, and that's a huge deal. With Arthas being essentially the main tank here, Varian, he is super viable now, but he is not a solo tank. So if Arthas is removed, their tanking capabilities are drastically reduced.
Now, all they need is one mode gem to unleash another set of wet weavers, and they're really trying hard to pay the one. I didn't even see who's carrying it. It's Varian. Okay, Varian is carrying that one gem to rule them all. Can they get it through?
It's 1 versus 4 gems required to be turned in. Lucky tries to do so, has to use Horrify to maybe survive, but Jada in position. Mortar Elemental trying to chase down, can't do it, but it has turned into a massacre. Malfurion is in such a rough position here, and Arthur's able to lock it down. The Tormented Souls, though, is beautiful, doing so much damage, but Ancestral Man, Touch of Death, not down. Uncle G keeps everyone alive, and Soa win another fight. They're going to be able to turn in, and this is going to be Soa continuing to get further ahead.
Yeah, the fact that Gul'dan was caught isolated here, he had to burn the Horrify super early on in order to keep himself alive. Oftentimes you have to make the decision, do I go for a big Gul'dan in order to keep me alive? Or do I die willingly only to come back with a rig ability? I think in this situation it was correct to use Horrify because a death on Gul'dan certainly meant a turn in, which happened here anyways. But it could have actually turned or gone the other way around. Hugo was getting huge damage done on the Malthael here, but in the end it was just too much damage by the Jaina, too much lockdown to keep him you know, occupied and to prevent him from using his self-sustain. So wonderful team to fight execution once again by Soa.
We see Varian has completed the Lion's Maw. He is now going to drop some lovely amounts of damage with his poke and even some big time slows. And of course, all of this sustains him at the same time.
All right, this is starting to look mighty grim for the One. They're losing more and more structure. The gap in experience is growing steadily here. The only fort left alive is in the bottom, and Soa wants to open up the map a little bit more even here. Trying to go for the safe objectives, trying to wait for the 16, maybe even then force a boss with that talent lead. And up to this point, I already have to say, Tetra, that Kong plays this variant super well, especially when compared to First from Team Sunny Lion earlier. And he reminds me of Wind in his playstyle, like a super safe, but also calculated aggression when it is safe to do so. Look at that. Look at that. Easy deletion.
Yeah, I was about to say, did he just teleport? There was no corpse. That's how hard they killed him.
They
Ragnarok not
him.
even used there. I was like, did he X-Strike out? That's how quickly he disappeared. But nope, he just exploded. As we see Soa using their man advantage, their level advantage, their talent advantage to take a boss. But Sneaky the One doing exactly what they should do, getting counter value elsewhere. They will get a turn in, and that will at least ease a tiny bit of pressure.
Yeah, I think they should actually go for the keep here. I'm not sure if they're going to have enough time, but I would actually happily trade 2 forts for a keep at this stage. But let's see what Soa is trying to do here. They're trying to catch someone. A friendly toss comes in, but looks like Soa is not taking any risk. Oh, that is so unfortunate for the One. They're basically completely wasting this Red Fever because it was still sent towards the former minions location. So, all right, the boss looks like a serious threat already, and the One can't even push with the Red Fears. Feels good for Soa.
This seems to be the deal. Whereas Soa clear up all the web weavers without taking a single bit of damage. They'll probably even get to top in time. The only issue is they weren't allowed to push with their web weavers while their boss, while that was happening. So overall, the One, they managed to buy themselves some time, but they lost so much later pushing value. But it was the safe move, but it's very much very much Sophie's choice. It's not ideal.
Yeah, they could have maybe forced the issue in top lane with the boss for the 16 talent advantage to maybe get that keep, but in return they would have most certainly lost 2 forts, maybe even more. So I can't understand the way they played, but by the same token, I think the other play, the more aggressive play, wouldn't have been the wrong call either. Because now, once again, without getting the keep in top, they're going to have to worry about the One paying yet again. Look at that, 72 gems in the bank. They are going to have to be all over the place, and the One, they of course know exactly where Soa is going to next. Here comes the Water Elemental, here comes Varian charging in furiously, and this could be another team fight breakout. Good
into the fray again. There's the Horrify. It's the best fight the One have had so far. They managed to get Jaina, Hanzo, and Genji. Continues to clean up, gets one more, easily able to dash over the wall, looking for Uncle G. He's not able to get the reset on his Swift Strike, but the Hugo has got his back. Chases it down the Rhaegar, and only Klong will survive. Take that back. He takes a huge amount of damage, gets rooted, and down he goes. Full team wipe by the One. And all of that came due to that godlike Horrify. Let's watch it again.
Lucky making up for more than it here. Look at that beautiful 3-man Horrify. Rhaegar going all the way back here. Uncle G not even participating in that team fight, only to drop the Ancestral Healing on a Touch of Death target by Malthael, reducing all that healing value with 50% healing reduction. That was so well played, but my actual MVP in that team fight was Hehe, because he saved Gul'dan in the first place with a friendly toss, allowing him to even drop that Horrify. If he hadn't done that, Gul'dan would have been the first to fall.
Could not agree more. That was perfect. That was we are all in your only chance of winning. And as such, he, as you said, the MVP, able to take that fight for them by saving the main damage dealer. Sometimes you don't have to be a support to save a life.
Especially as Garrosh. He's not been known to save for saving lives. He was more known for taking them. That sounded way too horrid.
It's an orc. He's biased. As we see Faye moving in, helping clear up the web weavers. Mid will probably fall. Top is protected, but pretty much left unattended due to the fact that the port's already down. It's only going to be tier 2s, and that's going to be much easier to defend. No, mid is not defended. So will take a longer route round here.
This is still a scary push in the middle lane, Tetra, for the one, right? They have the Wizard Magic Aura against Jaina. Against Hanzo, this could be definitely a fight they're willing to take. The one that is, look at that, they're already demolishing the bottom lane, trying to distract Soa from actually defending the middle, only to then rotate over and take the second tower lane. And this is so much structural experience now for the one that they're actually ahead by a large margin. They're going to get 20 way before Soa.
They are continuing to approach 20 very quickly with a Siege Giant still actually available in the bot lane. There's an open fort in top lane for them to grab as well. They probably will. Soa. Siege Giant in bot lane is cleared up by itself, so they are actually able to rotate up here, and as such, this top fort will survive, but it's dropped very low.
And so at this point, they must feel really angry, really frustrated of how the turn of events has unfolded up to this. They were in such a commanding lead. They were dictating the pace of the early mid game, but one team fight is all it took. Look at he's not even moving an inch. He was patiently waiting for Klong to approach him in the bush, only to maybe flung him towards his mates in the backline. But the one is just all over the place right now. All they're trying to do is get that level 20 as fast as possible. That's why they send Gul'dan to the top lane. The rest of them push bottom and middle. And here it is. The Infinite Dragon Blade for Meng. We have seen in the past what he was able to do with those.
The double throw, Titanic Might coming in for Garrosh. Haunt, of course, for Gul'dan. Only other option would be Demon Circle if you're really concerned about your life. The armor on the heel for Malfurion could be incredibly useful here against the burst potential. And Malthael holding on, and this is sensible. There's always that opportunity to last second pick Touch of Death. No one can stop Death. The other Death talent. Taunts you, Titanic Might throwing both the tanks in. Not ideal. As Garrosh is trying to tank through here, gets the shield. Tremendous ults in the backline though. Dragon Blade, Hanzo leaps over. The Touch of Death expires there, and everyone's alive so far. Able to survive the Dragon Blade, turning around finally. The double kill picked up by Genji though. No one can stop Death has revived Malthael, and that makes this a 3 with that kill for nothing. Only the XP gain for the kill on Malthael, who, guess what? He's back, and that's going to make it a 4-kill scenario for the one. They can get that boss now if they want to.
We talked about Meng and his nasty, nasty Genji plays, and he delivered exactly that. Getting a clean triple kill with infinite RRRs to the victory. The dragon becomes him after all. Fantastic healing though as well by Malfurion, the Tranquility getting so much value. And big kudos to Hugo as well for distracting Team Soa so much. The Ancestral here was barely enough to keep Hanzo alive, but here we see the double toss. That's how it all started. He once again making those big plays happen and refuses to die at the same time.
So look at the positioning. Soa positioned so well here, except for this one moment. Ice Block blocks it, denying resets. But then Rhaegar, he decides to dive onto Meng. It's not a good move here. Meng would. You just need to wait out that Dragon Blade as best you can. And by that point, they've lost all opportunity. Now, though, they have 20. Once Arthas is alive, and assuming Varian survives this, which he absolutely won't because he just got wrecked. Dragon Arrow lands the stun, but now it's a 4 versus 5 to defend the core versus a boss.
I'm just saying, Tetra, the old Varian would have lived with that with 2 stacks of protected. The new one doesn't, because you only have 1, and then it goes on a 5-second cooldown, and there's no way to actively reduce the cooldown anymore. You don't have Live by the Sword anymore at level 7, so he was taunted, the first stack was used immediately, and then the boss stun came into play. So much burst damage onto the High King of the Alliance. He's the first one to fall, and likely the last one to tell the story.
They can't defend this. They are going to go down here. Faye getting targeted, trying to slow him down with that Arthur's E, but Genji is picking up everything. Jaina was blown up. She even took Blink, so she didn't even have the opportunity to turn that round if she wanted to with, say, the Winter Mute damage, and that is going to be it. That is GG, and the one takes game number 1.
Wow. Fantastic performance by the one. A great comeback after falling behind for the majority of the game. only to strike back when it really mattered. And guess what, guys? You only need to win the late game to win the video game sometimes in Heroes of the Storm, and that's exactly what TheOne did. They played it so patiently, so well. They were capitalizing on the mistakes, and I'm going to be quite honest with you, Tetra. Definitely not a Warrior player that I was free of criticism from, but in this game, he convinced me otherwise. He was just on a whole different level today.
I would agree. He was very punishing, but more importantly, he was very, very good at saving his allies.
Yes.
And as such, was able to allow them to make these kind of plays, and that's a pretty big deal. Then, eventually, after a very long time, Genji comes online, but so much of that came down to Soa deciding to fight at the boss. I don't think they had to do that. The boss is defendable. Yeah, surely, obviously, you might want to preferably fight a team weakened by a boss, but they didn't have 20. And that was such a big talent for a lot of their players here, especially Varian. If he got thrown in like he did, he could actually get the demoralizing shout, which he did take anyway, but he was surrounded by allies. Could have got Genji before he went in with the Dragon Blade there, for example.
Exactly. The lack of peeling, I think, by both Warriors, in fact, not just Varian, was definitely an aspect that hurt them so much. Genji basically had free reign in the backline. He was tearing Rhaegar apart. He was tearing Hanzo and Jaina apart, and that normally shouldn't be the case when you have abilities like Taunt, for example. It's fine if Arthas, pressures the enemy team a little bit and keeps them at bay. He can stay alive for as long as possible anyways with the ghouls. Although even then, Arthas got threatened so hard by Hugo as well, so it was really hard for I think in this game, Uncle G to make a good decision on the Rhaegar. Like, do I run away from the Genji, or do I try to help Arthas and Varian in need, right? Because they're getting shredded so hard by the Malthael. So, not only in terms of actual team fighting behavior, but also in terms of drafting, I think TheOne was just countering Soa on so many different levels. It was beautiful to see.
Yeah, Soa just panicking too much in the late game, because they were playing significantly better. I will say, the early game, Soa played way better than TheOne. Late game, Soa fell apart in some of those higher level team fights, and TheOne became focused, laser guided, and made the correct decisions. Remove the tanks, remove the peeling, focus the backline with Genji, get the kills. Nicely played.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. And TheOne, once again, making sure why they are a team to be reckoned with here. Not just in terms of top 3 placements, but also maybe making it to the mid-season brawl in the playoffs phase. And lucky getting that MVP on the Gul'dan. True, he was caught in the early game, but boy, did he come back with massive AoE horrifies hitting 3-4 people at the same time. Terrible, terrible damage also unleashed onto the enemy backline in unison with Malthael. There was so much poison damage, or damage over time, I should say, coming in. That was really hard for even a Rhaegar to keep everyone safe and sound. And then the AoE healing reduction, Touch of Death, so good. Rhaegar probably the most susceptible support when it comes to dealing with healing reduction.
And it was very effective in terms of the fact that all Rhaegar's healing is AoE. And of course, the Ancestral is such a huge healing ability. Only thing that even comes close to it, really, would probably be, I'm trying to think what it's called, Lifebind on Alexstrasza. And we never see that picked anyway, so we never get to see that kind of thing get encountered. But it's such a huge ability to use against those kind of heroes.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Now, can Soa bounce back from this defeat on Tomb of the Spider Queen? That remains to be seen, because they are in a little bit of a downward spiral at the moment. True, they did have a really good start into this phase, right? But as Tetra said earlier, they were only facing the quote-unquote lower teams. Teams like Sunny Lion, KT, and so on and so forth. Now they're facing the top dogs, the big ones, like CE, SBT, TheOne, all in a row here, going from tough game to tough game to tough game, back to back to back. But they're going to face TheOne